My name is Thomas Marcella. I'm the Aquifer Protection Supervisor at the Edwards Aquifer Authority, and I'm involved with managing a team and supervising a team that works with the City of San Antonio and their Edwards Aquifer Protection Program, which purchases conservation easements over the Edwards Aquifer Recharge Zone and contributing zone to protect the water quality and quantity of water that is infiltrating into the Edwards Aquifer for the long term, as these conservation easements last into perpetuity, meaning they will last forever as long as the City of San Antonio exists. So this is very important to the long-term health of our aquifer, and it's an excellent program in achieving that through establishing a partnership between the public, the City of San Antonio, and a private landowner, and, which is an excellent way to do things without having to go through regulation to protect our water sources. We also are interested in conducting at the Edwards Aquifer Authority practices and researching and implementing practices that will enhance water quality and quantity going into the aquifer as well, by improving the health of our riparian areas, improving the health of our soil, improving the health of our forests. And we're currently just starting to look into these practices, and hopefully over the next few years, it's going to be very exciting to see how this develops, which we'll also be using our field research park as part of this research and development of these practices. And so another part, the exciting part of what we do on the aquifer protection team using technology to help protect the aquifer is through our geographic information systems, in which we're able to digitally map many different aspects of the aquifer, from the geology to the soils to locations of wells, locations of spills, locations of our conservation easements. Anything you want to map, any type of data related to the Edwards Aquifer can be placed on a map, and that way it can be easily interpreted by anyone, by you at home, by a scientist, or by the media. Whoever needs this information can easily access it and understand it through a map. What entails in our conservation easement monitoring means that on an annual basis, we do go out to each property within the Edwards Aquifer Protection Program, or also the Edwards Aquifer Authority holds easements of their own, in which one of these easements is Government Canyon, for example, that we would go out to Government Canyon site and we visit that property, and each property has unique conditions that are attached to it that prevent certain activities that could potentially harm the aquifer. And so, of course, these types of activities really aren't going on at Government Canyon, but it's part of our job to go out and just ensure that these conditions of the easement are being upheld. And so that means getting out, driving around the property. We use ATVs, and to evaluate the property, we hike on foot to different remote locations of properties. And when we're moving throughout these properties, when we're evaluating things that we see that could potentially have negative impact on the aquifer, or also we're just looking at general signs of a healthy property as well, which could be indicated by vegetation or geology, and a lot of interesting features that exist on these properties, that is good that they have been protected, because they are very much contribute to the health of the aquifer. Healthier soil can hold more water, and it can hold more nutrients, and it also is less prone to erosion. And so you're not losing erosion into, or losing soil and sediment and pollution into these waterways, which eventually can recharge the Edwards Aquifer. And a healthy riparian area also is more stable. It has more vegetation, which acts as a filter and can also act as a sponge, holding water in for a longer period of time, instead of when we have these large rain events. Water can be wash off the landscape really quickly if it's not held in place. So healthy soil and a healthy riparian area help hold this water in place longer and release it slowly. And so it's released slowly over a period of time, it has more opportunity to recharge into the Edwards Aquifer. Yeah, riparian area means the area that is deals with the stream. So this is the area really where you're thinking of where water flows through the stream, of course, but also up onto the banks of the stream, in which would be considered an area that is inundated with water or is flooded approximately every 2 years. And so that's generally what you mean by riparian area, and it doesn't necessarily always have to have water in it. It can go dry during certain periods of the year and still be considered riparian. And as far as when we're talking about nutrients in general, we're talking about nutrients based with nitrogen, which is also often, which is not beneficial. It's beneficial for plants and things to be able to take this up to grow, but it's not beneficial when it comes off in excess into our waterways. And so that's a nutrient that we try to prevent. So as I mentioned, a healthy soil can actually hold more nitrogen in it, therefore less of it being washed off into these waterways. Native plants are beneficial because they are well adapted to this environment here. And they're also adapted into the ecological system in which, so one plant couldn't take over the area and reduce the amount of other native plants that live there, basically through overcrowding an area. And also plant diversity is important. So you wouldn't want to just have an invasive species that takes over an entire area, because you would only have one species of plant. Without diversity in your plant species, you'll have less diversity in your wildlife. And also, really what soil health and riparian health all will eventually come down to is also what we can't see in the microbial life in the soil. And so the more plant diversity you have, the more diversity that will result happening in the soil, which that just chains all the way up through the ecosystem, creating it, causing it to be more healthy. And for words of wisdom to future generations, I would just really ask them to just take a moment to pause when they're outside and observe what's around them. Take a moment to enjoy it and appreciate it, and try to understand it a little more and connect with what they see around them in terms of nature, because it all in turn comes back to our human health.